Good morning. Tuesday, the 25th of August, 2020, and I am here at the home church today rather than in Grandview at the church. We are trying to behave ourselves in quarantine because tomorrow we head to Portland for our daughter's wedding, and we've got lots to do in the days leading up to it. It's on Saturday, but we've been trying to behave ourselves, minimizing our trips to the store, avoiding friends. I went to men's group a week ago, but this week staying away just to make sure that we are all healthy. It's only going to be 20 some people at the wedding, immediate family only, and not even all of those. So a very small, intimate wedding, not the 150 we had hoped, but stories will come out of this time. And it seems somehow the harder it is to live through it at the time, the better story it makes. When we look back on our lives, the times when things were just fine, did we really think, okay, these are great times, we're going to tell stories about them? No, they don't stand out. What stands out are those rare victories and the rare tragedies, the highs and lows, when we really had to pull together and really reach down inside ourselves and pull up every little bit of courage and character that we could muster. We definitely see that in the biblical narrative. If you're going to write a holy book and you want it to be about holy people, well, you might write a gospel. And you've only got really one holy person there, that's Jesus, and he's contrasted with everybody else, except for the occasional foreigner and the occasional woman, or the occasional woman foreigner, who turn out to be the heroes of the story in Jesus' perspective, when the disciples are people who really are lazy, clumsy, unfaithful, and not particularly smart, not really all that ambitious, and definitely not holy, sacred, set aside, not what we would call apostolic. The same is true of the narrative in the Tanakh, especially the book of Genesis, the first book of the Tanakh, the Jewish Testament. Oh, these are interesting people. Oh, these people cheat each other, they're related to each other, they love each other, and they turn and stab each other in the back. And today's story is no different. Here's Jacob. He's been living in the community of his mother's brother, Laban, Uncle Laban. He's married two of the daughters and has had children by two of the maids, so he now has 11 sons and a daughter, 12 kids. That ought to be enough for most people, wouldn't it? But he's still in their land. And now, with the birth of Joseph, the birth of a son to his favorite wife, the only one that he really loves among the four women that he has, he decides it's time he goes back to the land of Canaan and becomes the nation that God had promised to his grandfather Abraham. We're still in the same chapter 30, and verse 25 says, when Rachel had borne Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, send me away that I may go to my own home and country. Give me my wives and my children for whom I have served you, and let me go, for you know very well the service I have given to you. But Laban said, if you will allow me to say so, I've learned by divination that the Lord has blessed me because of you. Name your wages, and I'll give it. Jacob said to him, you yourself know how I have served you and how your cattle have fared with me. You had little before I came, and it has increased abundantly. The Lord has blessed you wherever I turned. But now, when shall I provide for my own household? He said, what shall I give you? Jacob said, you shall not give me anything, but do this one thing. I will again feed your flock and keep it. Let me pass through your flock today, removing from it every speckled and spotted sheep and every black lamb, the spotted and speckled among the goats. Such shall be my wages, so my honor will answer me for me later when you look into my wages with you. Everyone that is not speckled or spotted among the goats or black among the lambs, if found with me, shall be counted as stolen. Laban said, good, let it be as you have said. Okay, there is something about this unblemished, that even though we don't have the temple and the temple sacrifice, this is already precursor, a foreshadow to what's going to come before. During the original Passover, as we will learn in the book of Exodus, if we get there, they were to take a lamb from among the unblemished, meaning pure white or pure tan, but generally white among the lambs, or tan among the goats, or white, but not black, and not a black lamb, a white lamb, and not a spotted, no speckles, no calicos, just the pure ones, because somehow God really likes when you take the purest of them and kill them and sacrifice them and burn them up and give them back to God, that 10th portion. We find out later that God sort of used that as a teaching tool to teach them obedience and hope that they would on their own grow beyond it. They didn't. So he had to finally get to the points where he forbid them to do sacrifices. We don't have them today. We haven't had them since the Bar Kokhba revolution in about 132. So there it is. Sacrifices of animals probably aren't coming back. At least I certainly hope not. I think we're a little more civilized. But back then, the pure, the unspotted, the unblemished were everything. And Laban could look on his flock and he could see, yeah, okay, Jacob's probably going to end up with, I don't know, half his flock. So before Jacob has a chance to go through, verse 33 or verse 35, that day Laban removed the male goats that were striped or spotted, and all the female goats that were speckled and spotted, every one that had white on it, every lamb that was black, and put them in charge of his sons, and set a distance of 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob, while Jacob was pasturing the rest of Laban's flock. So that's how his uncle repays him, going, wow, I have been richly blessed, and I promised to give him anything he wanted, and it's fair. It's just that I don't really want to part with it. No, it's not going to happen. It's fair. He's earned it. It's his. It's the right thing. It's just, and therefore I'm not going to do it because I'm greedy. I'm just not going to part with him, because if he leaves and takes that, it'll devastate me. I'm an important person. I'm a rich person, and it's because of him that I'm rich, and I'm not going to kill the goose that laid the golden egg. I'm going to make him stay and work for me a little longer so that I can keep prospering, and I'm going to hide those and give them to my sons, send them away. Nice guy. Families, you got to love them. This would make a good sitcom, wouldn't it? Well, not so much comedy, just maybe a nighttime drama. Again, there we go with Dallas or Knots Landing, one of those. Verse 37. Then Jacob took fresh rods of poplar and almond and plane, peeled white streaks in them, exposing the white of the rods. He set the rods that he had peeled in front of the flocks in the troughs, that is, in the watering places where the flocks came to drink. Since they bred when they came to drink, the flocks bred in front of the rods. So the flocks produced young that were striped, speckled, and spotted. So Jacob is intentionally taking advantage of some kind of genetic marker that is triggered by whatever chemicals happen to be in the bark of these trees. And we thought they didn't know anything about genetics. They don't know enough not to marry their cousins. But somehow when it comes to the breeding of goats and sheep, Jacob knows how to make speckled ones out of pure ones. Jacob separated the lambs and set the faces of the flocks toward the striped and completely black animals in the flock of Laban. He put his own droves apart, did not put them with Laban's flock. Whenever the stronger of the flock were breeding, Jacob laid rods in the troughs before the eyes of the flock, that they might breed among the rods. But for the feebler of the flock, he did not lay them there, so the feebler were Laban's, and the stronger were Jacob's. So the stronger ones were the ones that had the various genetic complex markers in them. And we know that to be true of genetics today, that the more diverse a gene pool is, the stronger it is. I've owned purebred Pomeranians, and the more you breed in within that family to get certain traits, the more you breed in health problems. And those dogs, both, one of them died before he made it to 10 years old. So they have problems. They just do. The other one had a collapsed trachea and spinal problems and knee problems. Purebred dogs, purebred anything, are going to be feebler. Verse 43, thus the man grew exceedingly rich and had large flocks, male and female slaves, and camels and donkeys. We don't know how long Jacob was with Laban. Long enough to work 14 years to marry the two daughters and get the two slave women with them. Long enough to have 12 children. 7 of them are by Leah, so that's at least 7 more years there. So I'm guessing he was there a couple of decades, because all this time then he's manipulating the flock as well. Now he's ready to go home. So Jacob's 20-year side journey to his uncle has gained him a family, and now he is the beginning of a nation. But the one son he really loves, the only one that his beloved Rachel bore him, the youngest of his sons, is going to be his favorite. Yeah, and that's going to cause problems.